Good morning. Good morning or good morning. Guys, welcome to another fabulous episode, guys, of Exit Strategies Radio Show. Hey, y'all know who I am, but if y'all don't know, y'all about to get it right now. Corbin J. Millett, broken owner of Exit Realty Low Country, been beautiful North Charleston, South Carolina, guys. We, as always, have a fabulous show, guys. Fabulous show. So look, I've been doing this for a little while. Y'all know this. We're approaching the 2-decade mark. So I've been doing this a little while. And over my years, I have been very privileged to meet a plethora of amazing people. Y'all like them big word usage and stuff. Y'all go look up plethora today and y'all will use that in the sentence. But we have with us Ellen Frazier with CrossCountry Mortgage. Ellen, how are you doing?
I am fantastic today. Thank you so much for having me back on your show. We had such a fun time last time. I'm glad I get to revisit.
Well, look here, don't tell nobody. We over here acting up now. Don't tell nobody because they don't be ready for that. Look here, when they see me in the street, they're like, no, ain't nowhere in the world you act up like that. I'm like, well, I don't know. You might want to tune in and find out. How about that? But Ellen, look, you are a veteran. You're a veteran. So if you don't mind, first and foremost, tell our folks, a snippet about you, a snippet about CrossCountry Mortgage, and we want to get into what you know that they need to find out.
Okay, I love it. All right, let's get started. So first and foremost, Ellen Frazier, CrossCountry Mortgage. I have been in the mortgage business since 2004, so I'm really close to catching up to you there on your tenure. So I've got just a few years underneath my belt. And, what we like so much about CrossCountry Mortgage and what we're doing for folks in our community is that we just have a lot more products that we can offer for investors and first-time home buyers. And I personally specialize in first-time home buyers, investors, and veterans. So I'm not personally a veteran to the armed forces, but I am a veteran in the mortgage business. So I'll clarify that one real quick.
Good deal. Well, thank you so much. So look, our listeners need to know this. You wrote a book. You got a book out there. So look, I don't want to let that go by. So if you don't mind, you wrote like the mortgage playbook, right?
I sure did. I wrote a book about first-time home buyers for the Charleston market specifically. And so there's a lot of helpful content in the back of the book that's specifically about Charleston. But the best part of it is that it's a step-by-step process to walk people through the home buying journey, right? Because there's so many things and factors that go into it. So we want to be able to share that with your listeners and viewers and everything else. I'd love to put the link or the information to get it. You can get it on Amazon. And I don't think I have a copy on my desk. Otherwise I'd show it. But yeah,
that's my fault because I got a copy, but it ain't on my desk.
I know. And I'm like, I should have been prepared. But yes, thank you for bringing that up. I want to mention one other thing too. That book is a little thick, so I've actually revamped it into an ebook, which is about 15 pages instead of like 80 pages. So to condense it down a little bit for our folks, make it a little bit easier.
So what you're saying is that we ain't, look here, for those that ain't got enough patience to read, let's give you the Cliff Notes.
I think that the Cliff Notes is a great start to the journey towards homeownership.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep it right. But yeah, the Cliff Notes. I'm sorry.
We did. You condensed that down a little bit. Had to. Yeah,
we gonna get you on the road to home ownership expeditiously.
If I'm waiting for you to read the book, that's taking too long. We need to start this process now.
I'm sorry. Good stuff. So look, a lot of stuff, and you and I, backstage we're having this conversation. So, for our listeners, guys, I just recently had a conversation I was sharing with Ellen, and it kind of caught me off guard when the person asked me what they asked me, and I may get to that. But one thing that we were talking about that we do want to kind of maybe delve a little bit deeper, you broke down FICO scores. You sent me something, a one-pager, if you will, that breaks down FICO scores. And we got to talk about that. The consumers out here thinking that they went out and bought a car or went and bought an appliance at Web and applied for the financing and got approved. And they're thinking that score is their score as a mortgage. But let's talk about that. What does that look like?
So I would just like to mention that there's a couple of different scoring algorithms that are out there, right? So you have a consumer credit report which is for consumer items like your credit cards, your cars, appliances, Lowe's, Home Depot, things like that. And then we have like a mortgage scoring algorithm. And the best thing to associate that to would be the FICO, that flyer that I sent you earlier. That scoring model is going to be closely aligned to what a mortgage lender will use for the scoring process. So you might have heard this once or twice, but say you have an applicant that applies for a mortgage and their score came back slightly different than what they may have anticipated it being when they applied. That happens sometimes, right? And so there's a lot of variables that go into breaking down the FICO score. And we can do like a quick high level overview of that if you'd like, but I'll just mention the top 5, okay? So first and foremost is your payment history. That makes up about 35% of your score. How much you owe. So the utilization of those lines of credit are a huge factor. That's about 30% of your score. And I'm just checking my notes to make sure I get these numbers right. And then the length of your credit history, that's about 15% of your score. New credit accounts for about 10%. And then all the different mixture of types of credit that you have counts for about 10%. So what we're looking for is we want to see a well-rounded credit bureau report, right? And we also want to see the low utilization on those credit cards and the length of the credit, the lines that are open are all variables that will factor into a higher credit score.
Look, for our listeners, guys, look, this is like your opportunity to get do a deeper dive on credit scores. I get it. You see on Credit Karma or your bank's website or whatever on your app what a score is, and you think that's your actual, let me phrase that, you think that's your mortgage related score, because really, yeah, that's your score somewhere, but that ain't the one that's going to come up when the lender for a mortgage pulls your credit bureau report. And also, the bureau's not the same. That's the thing I was just having as a conversation, Ellen, that the bureau, so you giving me a score. So your A score is this particular bureau, but that's not how you guys weigh the score. Am I correct?
That is correct. So what we do is we pull what's called a tri-merge credit report, and that pulls from all 3 credit bureaus, TransUnion, Experian, Equifax. And then through those 3 scores, we take the middle score. And that middle score determines your eligibility for the various types of loan programs that we offer.
Now, see, look at that was a word right there. So let's take this a bit further because, and just credit scores and program types and overlays and all this stuff, that's the high end, the verbiage and the vocabulary that we use in the industry. But let's bring this to right here to the consumer level. Guys, look, let me say this, and Ellen, I'm going to ask you to back me up on it because I know you will. And then subsequently, I'm going to say run with it, which means where they need to be. If you got a 400 credit score, we probably ain't buying a house today. Is that fair?
I think that's 100% fair. We need to at least get you up to 500.
Okay. So what does that look like at that level? And then subsequently, what ideal situation, what does it need to look like?
Okay. I'm going to actually back up for 1 second because I want to use my 3-legged chair model. And I can't coin this. I did pick this up from another mentor of mine, but we like to refer to it as our 3-legged stool, right?
Go ahead.
So if you have a 3-legged stool, weight has to be evenly distributed on all 3 legs. And so what do those 3 legs consist of? That's going to be your income, your assets, and your credit, right? If you have strength in all 3 of those, that they're balanced, then we have ability to move forward. Now, if we're short or light in one of those areas, then we need to be able to overcompensate in another area. Let me paint a picture for that. So for example, if we have a lower credit score, we might be able to work with that, but we just have to overcompensate in another area. So for example, like with assets. So if we have like a 500 credit score, we're going to require 10% down. If we have a 580 or better score, we're only going to require 3.5% down, and so on and so forth. So the higher the score, the more opportunity that you have for various programs. Can we play with those low scores? We can, but you're going to have to put a lot more into the game if we do that.
That makes perfect sense. So for our listeners, guys, look, don't you run off here and, at this and say you can buy a house. Well, let me phrase that. All you got to do is have a 500 score, because that's not what Ellen is saying. And I know along with Ellen, look, that ain't how that thing working, because you got to have substantial assets and be able to put that in. So we ain't getting no down payment assistance with a 500 credit score, guys, and going to buy a house. No, let's take that off. No, we ain't doing that. Let's have a real conversation today. So let's talk about like let's bring into this conversation like, your niche products. I know you guys have a plethora. That's that word again, guys. Plethora. That's your word for the day.
The word for the day.
You have a plethora of programs that are available. And granted, there's qualifications for them, but let's take one or two of quote unquote your favorite ones, like the stuff you can't believe you guys offer. And let's throw that out there in the conversation.
Well, I do want to circle back to the 500 credit score because I know that a lot of my peers in the community don't offer that. And so that's a huge game changer. It can be, but we have to offset it with the assets, right? Mm-hmm. So we do require more money down in that particular situation. It's great to have if we need it, but just know that we're going to have to put more money down. So the next thing I would say is that 3.5% FHA, we can go down to 580 credit scores. That's probably a little bit more commonplace in our current market. And then in addition to that, we offer the South Carolina Housing Down Payment Assistance Program. I know that that's a super helpful, beneficial program if you meet the parameters. Tricky to qualify, but if you meet the parameters, it's a great program. And then in addition to that, because our community is just growing in leaps and bounds, and we're pressing out all of these, the Tri-County area, every inch and every corner we can spread to. And you know a lot more about that than I do, but I would say USDA financing, that is always a home run at 100% financing. It's just that you have to be in the right pocket of the Tri-County area to qualify.
It's like, it's like going outside and having to try to trim the hedges back so that the shadow casts a certain way on the side of the house. But if you trim wrong, it's going to look bad. So that's not going to work. So that I'm describing what it's like to find the right USDA property, the right area and all that stuff, because it is hard as heck to get all that stuff to kind of fit in there together. And I'm going to take you back a moment when you was talking about the state housing loan. When you said it's tricky, in my mind, I thought Run DMC. You remember that song? It's tricky.
Yes, it's tricky.
I'm sorry. I digress. So,
you're showing my age now.
Yeah, exactly. But it is. It's tricky. Trying to get that all to fit together, guys. But if you have the right situation, if you have the right everything else, then it all works together. I'm gonna switch it up. I'm having too much fun. So my spirit is convicting me over here to say that, hey, we have to remember these things will work together for your good. We have to remember that. Our show here is based upon the word. You know what I'm saying? So we got to remember that the things will work for your good. Now, it might be correction. Regardless, it's going to be for your good. What is you got to do, what is you have done that you did right, and it's proven to you that these were the steps you need to take to get into home ownership. So that is awesome. That's awesome. So tell me, obviously, you've been doing this a while. And so let's talk today, because yesterday is gone. What challenges are you seeing today that the buyers you're working with are facing? Like, what's the biggest challenges? And then what are the things that you've given them as far as advice to overcome?
So that's a lot to unpack. I will say that a common theme that I see is that, we still have the credit challenged buyer. We still have limited assets. And so I have to always go back to that three-legged stool. We need to think about what does your score look like today? What type of assets do you have to put into the transaction? Like if you need 100% financing, then that's a separate conversation, right? Mm-hmm. And then the other thing would be inventory, but I think you can preach much more on this than I can, that we're starting to see homes are sitting on the market just a little bit longer. I've seen a little bit of price improvement. I'm not saying that people are leading with that by any means, but I am seeing different type of market today than maybe where we were 6 months ago, right? And we're always shifting, always changing, always evolving. So this market is definitely doing its portion of that as well. But as far as what I'm seeing with buyers today, especially first-time home buyers, is we're seeing the limited assets and maybe some credit challenges. But what's great about that, my job is to get you on the path. Of course, we want to close and celebrate, and have a housewarming party at the end of the day. But my job is to get you on that path, right? So if we're not where we need to be today, what kind of advice or what kind of information can I share with you that will help you get on the path or at least give you direction? I never leave a consultation with a no. I just don't believe in that word because I feel like we can do so much more, right? And so it's my job to make sure that I give you the tools, your clients, whoever, the tools so that they can start that journey, right? And then we're with them every step of the way.
I like that. I like that you don't leave with a no.
Now, it might be not right now. It's not going to be a flat out no.
And, that's one of the things I appreciate about you. I tell folks, all the time that I don't work with just any and everybody. The people I work with are partners, and those people understand our mission, what we're trying to accomplish. And that attitude that you have about, look, we need to do this so we can. I'm not telling you no, this is what we need to do so we can get to the yes. So that space in between the no and the yes is where I like to make sure that we land. We never want to land on no, be in that space between.
And two words come to mind when you were just saying that. The two words that come to mind to me is empowerment and hope, right? We never want to leave a conversation with, okay, the wind just got kicked out of my sails and that's it. I'm never going to own a home. No, that is not the answer. The answer is, how can we empower you to make the decisions, to make the changes that you need to make to be able to get on the path towards home ownership? And then the second thing is, I want to give you the hope to do that it's actually possible, right? And that's where we as professionals, especially veterans in this industry, like you so graciously pointed out earlier, is that we want to empower the folks that we're working with. We want to bring you on this journey with us. We want you to be empowered to make these changes because it is possible. And I mean, I've seen some miraculous stuff lately. I had a client that was in the 400s and we were able to turn them around and get them well over in the mid fives relatively quickly. So partner with people that can make that happen. I have a couple of different credit restoration companies that I choose to work with. And so the reason why I choose to work with these people is because I've been doing this long enough and I know that I want to see results and they're going to be able to deliver on those results. So it's super, super empowering for me too, because I feel like I'm doing what I was put on this planet to do, right?
Got to find purpose, have to find purpose. And when you have done it, you need to operate within it. This industry, for me, is to a degree a call. It's something that we enjoy doing. It's something that we leverage and use to, again, empower people. You said empower and hope. And I'm going to add, if you don't mind, and this is my word for the year, is impact. I want to have an impact on something. If I hit something, if I run into something, if I do something, I want to have an impact on the people that I intend to or am serving. And it needs to be a positive impact. We don't want to give them, we don't want to remove, quote unquote, we don't want to. Have you ever punched anybody in the throat?
Physically, no. Maybe verbally, I don't
know. We'll visualize it. So when you punch somebody in the throat, and our listeners probably completely caught off guard by that one there, when you punch somebody in the throat, it is literally like, wait a minute. And it's like, okay, look here, I done lost everything gone, breath, everything gone, right? And it takes them a moment to recover. You don't want to leave somebody like that. You don't want to punch them in the throat. Figuratively, literally, you do not want to do that. Physically, every on occasion, you might want to, but that's a whole nother animal. We ain't gonna talk about that today. Our show does not condone violence. I mean, we don't like to watch it either, but that's a whole nother story. But anyway, you see, I got you with that one. So, and that's all new material. I never said that before, but that's kind of what this thing here is sometimes for the people that we serve. It's like, it's somewhat of a gut check or a throat punch. Sometimes when they come in to talk with an agent or come in to talk with a loan officer, the reality hits them and it catches them off guard completely. And they spend a lot of time trying to, quote unquote, recover. And that is where, quote unquote, a challenge becomes. We don't want to discourage people.
Right. I'm so glad that you brought that up because it's really easy, I feel like, in this stage of the process to get discouraged, especially if you don't see results quickly. But I promise you, it is so worth it, especially with my credit restoration folks. It is worth it. You might not see an immediate result in 30 days, but you stick with me for 90 days and you're going to see some serious improvements. And so It's just a matter of committing to yourself, right? I commit to this process. I commit to this journey. I commit to myself. I want to be a homeowner. And these are the steps that I'm going to take to get there. And it's not instantaneous. We've both survived the past couple years. So, I'm sure that we've all been given some challenges that we've had to overcome. That's part of it, is that how are we giving you the tools that you need to take you on this journey? And how are we able to help you achieve those next steps that you want for yourself and your family?
That is huge. And that's what it's about. It's a journey. We've gotten, as a society, we expect instant gratification on everything. We expect that we're going to be able to, we buy and move, we moving in the house tomorrow. That like, wait a minute, what? All this stuff is just going to miraculously happen overnight. That then what happens is when we find out, even this is the best one here. All right. The best one is when your friend bought a house 3-4 years ago, market price, rates, everything was completely different. If I can't buy a house as big as my friends, I don't want one. Wait, what? Hold on. Where you work at, your income more? Is it? No, it ain't. Okay, bet. That's what we're going to do. So you see what I'm saying? So that's kind of like the best one now. We try to counsel and help people. And for our listeners, guys, as Ellen is saying, and I'm essentially echoing, guys, you got to be prepared for today. So work on it today. Don't worry about who did what yesterday. And guys, we've had this conversation before, but don't you dare do that. Don't you dare do that. Ellen?
Well, and another thing too that I would like to mention is that each scenario is completely unique into itself. I have to emphasize that because I've been in this business. It'll be 19 years, September 1st, which is actually my birthday. Why I started on my birthday, I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, glutton for punishment.
Never forget it. I'll never forget it. So I started in this business almost 19 years ago, right? And the one thing that I can promise you today is that I learned something new every single day in this business because there is a new program, new product, new type of financing, a new scenario that I've never encountered before. I mean, it's just, we're all individual human beings and we all have different scenarios in our lives, right? And so our job is to take that information and put it into a mold that will produce homeownership at the end.
And that you do also well. So look, I've had an amazing time. Before we begin to wrap up here in a moment, your contact information. How can people get in contact with you, Ellen?
Easiest way to catch me is ellenfrazier.com, and I'll spell that out, ELLENFRAZIER.com. And that'll take you directly to my website. There's mortgage calculators there. I've got contact information. If you want to call me, shoot me a message. Also, my Calendly link. If you go to Calendly, it's Ellen-Frazier, and you'll find me. That's the easiest way to catch me. And I'm on Facebook, Instagram, all the other things too.
So wait a minute, we didn't even talk about this because see, you the mortgage chick, ain't it?
Yes. Hashtag the mortgage chick. That is correct. So if you Google that, you should be able to get to me.
Yeah. So hashtag the mortgage chick. That's CHIC.
CHIC. Yes.
And y'all will find Ellen Frazier with CrossCountry Mortgage.
Yes.
Ellen, thank you so much for being a part of the Exit Strategies Radio Show family. Thank you so much for being my guest here today. As always, I have a blast, and we've got to do this again real soon. In parting, is there any one thing that you, with our listening audience, to help them on their way?
What I would suggest is that there's no time better than the present, just to take a quick snapshot at your scenario, see where you are, see how far you have to go, and maybe you're ready to go right now. So first step, just take the first step. That would be my advice to anyone interested in purchasing a home today, is that you got to take that first step, and we're happy to show you the way.
Sweet. Thank you. Thank you so much. So for our listeners, guys, y'all know how we do and what we do, and y'all going to hear it on the outro, but y'all know how we do this thing, and we love you, and we love you, and we love you, and we're going to see you guys out there in them streets.